Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished dignitaries on the dais, respected delegates, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, let me apologize for the slight delay in my arrival here, in spite of the fact that I am a local resident and my driver obviously mistook the first bridge for the second one and took the wrong turn. Anyway, I am extremely happy that I am here today in the presence of all of you to deliver the keynote address. When my good friend Commodore Shekhar, who is the regional director of the NMF, requested me to become a member of the NMF about a year and a half back, I readily jumped at the opportunity because though at present my current assignment is Principal Secretary and Commissioner in the Department of Archaeology and Museums, the Government Museum, Chennai, I have had some experience in the port and maritime sector. I used to be the Secretary Highways and Ports about a decade back. Prior to that, I was also the Vice Chairman of the Tamil Nadu Maritime Board for about 2.5 years. I also had a brief stint with the Science City in Chennai here very recently. And my current assignment, fortunately, links me up with the port sector through the medium of heritage museums. So considering all these facts, I said, fine, I would readily like to participate and be of whatever assistance I can to the deliberations and endeavor of the NMF. And I must compliment Commodore Shekhar for the very energetic and dynamic work that he has been doing in association with the Chief and Commodore Uday Bhaskar and others. And I'm extremely happy that I have been able to associate myself with this very fine endeavor. It is also during my current assignment that I have been able to appreciate how the museums and archaeology department can also play a good role in the current endeavors of the NMF with regard to their various sectors. Incidentally, I belong to the heritage wing of the National Maritime Foundation. My predecessors, the Admiral and Shri Ashok, have already touched upon many of the points that have been deliberated here. India's rich and glorious past, especially that of Tamil Nadu, is very well known to all of us. Tamil Nadu, as you know, has a long and glorious maritime history and tradition, and this has been observed from the various archaeological findings, both from within the country and from abroad. Tamil Nadu, as you know, has had long trading relations with both the East and the West. Incidentally, at present, the Government Museum Chennai, in association with the Italian Embassy and the Italian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, is organizing an exhibition on Indo-Roman coins in the custody of the Government Museum Chennai. We have one of the largest collections of Roman coins in India outside of Europe, and this exhibition is for a period of 2 weeks, starting 18th, 3 days ago, and this will be on till the 2nd of February. So I would like to take this opportunity to extend a welcome to all of you who have the time and interest to kindly come over to the Government Museum Chennai and have a look at some of the wonderful artifacts that are on display there, including gold and silver coins, various artifacts of exchange between India and abroad. As you know, cloves, pepper, sandalwood, tusks, and peacock feathers, and other objects used to be exported from India along with beads and other trinkets. And in exchange, we used to get the clove oil and amphora wine jars, including the wine, as well as the gold and silver coins from Europe. So I would request all of you who have the time to kindly go over. So Tamil Nadu's various kingdoms such as the Chera, Chola and the Pandya had very rich and continuous trading relations with the West and the East, and thereby became prosperous through sea trade by developing various harbors and providing quarters, warehouses and workshops for the various Roman sailors and merchants. The ports had navigational facilities like wharves, repair yards, pilotage and even lighthouses. This growth in trade resulted in intense competition between the various kingdoms of the Sangam era, namely the Chola, the Pandyas and the Cheras. Weaving, pearl fishing, smithy and shipbuilding also were some of the prominent industries of the ancient Tamil country. And the Tamil kings had for centuries been deeply involved in shipbuilding and went on voyages to the Malaysian peninsula and further eastwards to Java, Sumatra and Bali, especially the Chola kings Rajendra Chola and his successors. Even to this day, as has been pointed out by the Admiral, we see a strong influence of Tamil language and culture, religion, food, and the various arts in the Indonesian islands, as in Malaysia. Now, coming to the topic on hand, the Indian Maritime Technology Conference here. We are all present here today as delegates to the first ever conference on this subject. I would like to draw the linkages between the three words, India, Maritime, and Technology. As has already been pointed out by the Admiral, it's a matter of great interest that barely 10 days ago, the Union Minister for Shipping has unveiled the Maritime Agenda for the decade 2010 to 20, which outlines a number of important goals for the maritime sector. He has also conceded that the shipping industry is way behind its full potential, as is well known and pointed out by speakers before me. The new plan, as we all know, calls for a total investment of about 66 billion in the port sector and the remainder in the shipping segment. It's the intention to increase the share of Indian seafarers in the global shipping industry from the current 6 or 7% to at least 9% by the year 2015. The agenda also indicates a desire to increase India's share in global shipbuilding from the current 1% to at least 5%. The promotion of coastal shipping for environmental reasons also finds a pride of place in the agenda. Further, port-related objectives and full mechanization of cargo handling and movement which will have a draft of not less than 14 meters of the major ports and 17 meters in the hub ports is also one of the desired agenda items. Taking a deeper look at the port sector alone, the maritime agenda envisages development of two new major ports, one each on the east and the west coasts, and development of two new hub ports on each of the west and east coasts, namely Mumbai, which is JNPT, Kochi, Chennai, and Visakhapatnam. Foreign direct investment up to 100% will be permitted, which is a major deviation from the current policy prescriptions. However, like all policy documents, the maritime agenda lays down a direction and says what needs to be done, but it is rather on how these objectives can be achieved that the real pinch lies, and it is for that purpose that scholars and experts in the field are all gathered here to work out a strategy. Some of the issues which have already been highlighted by the speakers before me, which I would like to mention here. We all know where India stands as a shipbuilding nation, and we also know what are all the shortcomings in our major ship repair industries. But we need to also identify our demonstrated strength in design, development, and manufacturing, and state-of-the-art marine engineering equipments. We need to also collaborate with the various engineering institutions in producing world-class marine engineers, technologists, and technicians. The linkages have been talked about between our maritime research establishments and the maritime industry. And our contribution in the field of offshore energy technologies also needs to be studied in greater depth and highlighted. And finally, what will be our strategy for assimilating world-class technologies? It is by finding answers to these very important questions that we will be able to establish the how of achieving the laudable objectives that have been laid down in the agenda recently spelled out. The purpose of this conference, as already mentioned, is how technology can drive the maritime agenda. We need to really harness the strength of technology, which is really moving in leaps and bounds, and use it for the full potential of development of the maritime agenda. For instance, if we look at the shipbuilding sector, if India is to increase its share of the worldwide shipbuilding industry, it is important that the shipyards, both in the public and in the private sector, would need to increase their capacity in the long term. But before doing that, we need to also optimize their existing capacity by adoption of efficiency and productivity enhancement measures in the short term. Ship design capability also needs to be looked at in greater depth. Similar approach needs to be adopted for all the other major components of the maritime sector, such as ports and harbors, inland waterways, offshore energy, marine tourism, research and development, and HRD. And if we want this technology infusion to be inclusive, we must take a leaf out of the noted management guru, Sri K. Prahlad's book, and look at the wealth at the bottom of the pyramid by bringing into the ambit of shipbuilding the hitherto neglected micro, small, and medium enterprises sector also. As already mentioned, maritime education and training plays a very important role, and many of our institutions who are also represented in this conference will be able to understand and interpret the needs of the maritime industry and incorporate the skill sets that are needed to satisfy the needs into their syllabus and various courses. As already pointed out, we have a rich and glorious maritime tradition. However, the youth of today is not only unaware of this tradition, but also of the plethora of career options which are available in this maritime sector. I am glad, as the Commissioner of Museums and Archaeology in the Government of Tamil Nadu and as a member of the Local Advisory Board of the Chennai chapter, the Maritime Agenda makes special mention of a study to be conducted to find out the possibility of having a passenger ship service from Chennai to Tuticorin. I am sure many of you would be aware of the fact that there used to be regular passenger ship services, the MV Chidambaram, right up to the year, I think, 87, was it 86 or 87, where it used to run from Chennai to Penang via Nagapattinam, where it used to be berthed as roadstead. This needs to be revived along with the coastal shipping. This will go a long way in expanding marine tourism, and in turn it will lead to a greater awareness of the maritime potential of the state. In addition, there is also a proposal by the Lighthouses Department of the Government of India to set up a national museum near about Mahabalipuram, and that the Marine Lighthouse will have a marine technology museum also. In addition to that, I must also mention here that due to the energetic efforts taken by Commodore Shekhar, we have been able to interact with the authorities, the naval authorities in Visakhapatnam, to get the decommissioned submarine INS Vela which has been decommissioned a few months ago, and get it as a kind of a memento, as a museum, as is already the case with Kursura at the Ramakrishnapuram beach in Visakhapatnam. The efforts are on, and the Government of Tamil Nadu and the naval authorities are in discussion in this regard, and hopefully we will see the INS Vela being brought to Tamil Nadu as part of the Heritage Museum. In addition, there is also an intention to set up a heritage museum somewhere along the coast of Chennai or Mahabalipuram in association with the others, to be appropriately named Samudram, as has been coined by Commodore Shekhar, shore-based architectural museums of the Dravidian coast and monuments, short for Samudram. We are already working on this, and hopefully this will enhance the potential of various industries and units which are already working in this sector, as also encourage youngsters to come into this sector in a greater way, thereby increasing their opportunities and making them more easily available for the large requirements of the port sector. I am extremely thankful to the NMF as well as to the Confederation of Indian Industry, who have thought it fit to organize this wonderful event. It has not come a day too soon, as already mentioned, and I'm sure with the very active participation of many of you from various different sectors in the maritime field, we will be able to come up with some very viable solutions and options which would address many of the concerns that have been highlighted so far. And with these few words, I once again take this opportunity to thank all of you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much.